Good afternoon and welcome to my humble model railway, Bedstead Junction. Now, the locomotive you can see going around my layout at the moment is a new arrival, and it's one which I've been after for some time, and the right one came up at the right price and what appears to be the right condition, and so I decided to pounce and get it. I think pounce is the word. Anyway, I saw this and went for it. I know one of the reasons why I did this is because it's from a model railway dealer that I've dealt with before online on eBay, and they've sold me two previous locomotives that have been very, very good, and it's this one. I'll show you the box, you can see what it is. It's a Bachmann branch line class 4575. It's classed as a small Prairie tank. Okay, and they were built for the Great Western Railway, and they were built for use on branch lines. Now, a Prairie tank means that that's a 262 wheel configuration. So 2 leading wheels, 6 driving wheels and 2 trailing wheels under the cab. And these were seen all over the Great Western region, Great Western region and the Great Western Railway. Now, they were an adaptation of an earlier class, the 4500 class. Now, I think they started off as a church ward design, and they had smaller wheels and smaller capacity tanks. I mean, this is something which happened with these. These were had larger wheels fitted to them, as far as I know, and certainly larger capacity water tanks. And you can spot the later ones with the larger capacity water tanks, because the tops of the water tank is actually sloping. Okay, and we can have a closer look at this locomotive in just a moment. Now, this locomotive is not a split chassis design, so it's one of the later designs by Bachmann. And 100 of these were built at Swindon Works. The last 4 surviving locomotives were withdrawn in 1964, but 11 of these engines actually survived into preservation. And I think the reason for that is that there would be a very, very popular engine for preserved railways, especially if the preserved railways are more likely to be running on a branch line. And where I've seen locomotives of this type have been on the West Somerset Railway. They've used Prairie tanks on there before. A lot of all types of locomotives really on that particular one. That's a place I would highly recommend you visit. And this is something which I would have missed going back to the days of steam, but it would have been possible to take a train from Taunton to Minehead. I mean, nowadays that isn't possible. To get onto the West Somerset Railway, you need to get off at Taunton Station, and you need to take a bus to Bishop's Lydiard, and then travel from Bishop's Lydiard to Minehead. But if you're ever in the West Country, that is a trip I would definitely recommend for you. I think it's Britain's longest preserved railway, and this is the type of locomotive you might see on the West Somerset Railway. Now, as you can see, it's running very, very well. I'm running this straight out of the box, okay, straight out of the box, and there's a reason why I do this. It's because if I'm going to be giving the locomotive a service, first of all I need to work out what should it have one anyway, and if it's just going to be a light oiling or do other things need to be done to the locomotive. And you can see it's actually running very, very well. Really good runner. We're running this again with my Gauge Master Combi controller, which is a fairly recent purchase. Again, something which I could highly recommend to people. And the coaches which are being put by this particular locomotive are related to Bachmann. In fact, really, you've got the almost complete dynasty of manufacturers. The training coach is a mainline brake coach, and then the leading coach is a composite coach made by Replica Railways, and then finally the company became training as Bachmann. In fact, what you'll do is you can spot the different makes of the coaches. Well, if it comes in a box, that's a good indication. But it's easy to get these mixed up if you've got different types from different eras in different boxes. Is to look underneath. You'll see the name of the manufacturer. The replica railway one's more than likely to say Bachmann underneath anyway, but it will probably come in a replica railways box. But we're looking at this now, this particular one. The box isn't over large, which is something good. It makes it easier for me to store this Bachmann's branch line. And in fact, it gives you a brief history of the class on the back of the box as well, which is good. So it gives you a good little rundown as to what the history of the class is. Brief history of class 4575. And we'll just watch her go around just for a little while, I think. And we'll give her a few kind of what I would call running tests. Now, probably one of the first things I will be looking out for is when I buy a locomotive like this locomotive is a second-hand one, is that I'll put it on the tracks first of all, and I will first of all see, does it run? Okay, does it run? Yes. And does it need any attention? In this particular instance, probably not, because it's running so well. I've had other locomotives that have actually ran, and they've actually worked out of the box. Some have run erratically, and then you know that you need to do a little bit more serious work on them. But really, that would be the first thing I would do. So if you receive a locomotive through the post, like I've done, is to put it onto the tracks and see if it works. And in fact, I felt confident enough to put this one straight into service. I'm going to give it a service later on this afternoon, but it's gone straight into service so that you can actually see my new locomotive. And we'll have a nice closer look at her. And I'll explain to you some of the things you get detail-wise with this, which and some of the things you may not get with it, which you might get on later models, and we'll also work out whether or not we think it's a problem or not. Okay, so let's have a little look. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I'm delighted with this model. Okay, so one of the things you need to bear in mind about these Bachmann particular ones, let's go to the number. Is number 32138, Class Prairie Tank 5550. We'll check that as well in a minute. We'll have a look at the locomotive. I'll have a closer look at her. But I didn't even look at the number on it. I was so excited to get out of the box and get my layout out to run it, and I didn't really look at this one too closely. I've looked at it closely enough to know that there's no parts missing from it. Let's just put her over and have a look. I might get my head in the shot here, but yes, it's 5550. So it's the same as what I said on the box. We've got the right locomotive with the box. Now, a lot of people are not interested in unboxings. The reason why I would be interested in seeing unboxing is because it gives anybody watching a little bit more about the actual buying experience. Now, when this comes, I'm not going to take it all apart completely, because I'm trying to save space by the side of the layout. There's not much room in this room, but it did come in a block of ice packaging rather than the polystyrene packaging. And I think there's also a spare vacuum pipe here, but it looks like there's one fitted already to the locomotive, so it comes with a spare vacuum pipe. In fact, what we're going to do, we'll see if we can zoom in a little bit. Now, the light isn't too good for here. I'm going to try and get a light that's going to be behind me so we can get a better idea of what we're looking at. But until then, we'll have to do our best. Here it is in all its glory. A nice closer look on that. There we are, we can see that nice and clearly now. Let's see if we can zoom in just a little. Obviously, with the positioning of my tripod, we're looking at a view from above here. So, we're going to see if we've got a few things I've not even had a look at yet. Yes, it's got sprung buffers. Please excuse my hand going all over it. And the actual chimney, it looks like it's been painted in black. That often happened on the BR locomotives. That would have been a copper top chimney possibly on the GWR livery, but it has retained its brass whistles and its brass safety valve cover. You can also see the actual lining, lovely lining there. That's double stripes, I believe. And then we'll have a little look now. There's a coupling hook on the buffer as well. Nice detail on there. Lamp iron brackets on there. Everything looks absolutely fine. I would have no comments about this locomotive at all. And it's always something which you know, when you're getting a locomotive in the post, will it arrive all in one piece? I've only ever had one locomotive that's arrived not in one piece, and that unfortunately was a brand new one. So it goes to show sometimes you can't always guarantee getting a pristine model even if you buy a brand new one. But that's why I always look at them carefully when I get them out of the box. Make sure there's nothing rattling around at the bottom of the box. And one thing I've noticed some people do when they open up the boxes, especially if it's the block of ice packaging, I'll get this out to show you. Some people tip the box up like this, okay? Tip the box up so it's downward, facing downwards. Now if you do that, if there are any parts broken off from the locomotive, they're more likely going to fall off onto the floor. And you're not going to know. You might not even know there's pieces missing, especially if it's falling out down onto the carpet. Okay, so what I would do, and I'm not going to get all lectury on this, but if you're unboxing one of these, you can lift out the block of ice packaging from the side with your fingers. Lift it out. You can see the part of the detail, the remaining parts of the detail pack there. Okay, that's all there is in the detail pack now. I think it looks like a vacuum pipe to me. But I say there's already one fitted on the locomotive anyway. The brake rigging is already fitted, so the previous owner did that for me, so I can thank the previous owner for that. Okay, now inside the box as well, there's an exploded diagram of the actual locomotive with part numbers. So if you could potentially order new parts from Bachmann should you have a problem with your locomotive at any time. And we'll just zoom out so we can see it better, and we'll look up. There we are, so there's the exploded diagram there. Now, well, we can see that because of the restrictions with the light in this room. Well, there we are, that's a little bit clearer, isn't it? There we go. Well, that gives you an idea. It clearly shows it's not a split chassis locomotive. I know some people get the EBGBs about that. I think it can be DCC fitted. I think there's instructions in the bottom of the box about how to do this. There's also a consumer 12-month guarantee on this one as well. So if you would have bought this as a new locomotive, you would have had a 12-month guarantee. But you can see that what I like about these, they give you all the part numbers. All the part numbers are on there. The light's getting a bit funny from above. There we go. Okay, that's good. That is quite a nice thing to have. There's also an invitation to join the Bachmann Collectors Club in here as well. So I don't know whether or not that actually exists now, but I might look into that to see where we're at with that. Now you can see, so that's the box it came in with the literature. The block of ice packaging, the locomotive came in. The remaining part of the detail pack to be fitted, and then obviously the outer case of the box, which we got here. Okay, so that would give you some idea. But if you were to buy one of these locomotives new, and I'm not sure you can, but this will give you an idea, and especially if any of you are buying this second hand, it might give you an idea about what to expect in the box. Okay, what to expect in the box. We're going to come back down again. We'll have another look at this lovely locomotive. Here it is. Now, isn't that magnificent? Look at that. Beautiful late BR green livery. and that's one of my favourite liveries, I think. There appears to be some separately fitted parts on here, also some moulded parts, and really detail wise, yeah, looks lovely. Now I think, and I'm going to be quoting, I don't know whether or not that's metal. I don't know whether or not that running plate's metal. I'll have to take this apart and have a look at it. When I get to service it, I can let you know whether or not that is metal. But it's quite well detailed with the usual rivets. Now, it's got a small coupler on it, but it's managed to couple up to my my actual replica railways coach there, so that's no problem with that. That's fine. You've got those nice little supports there, which you get on there. Superb. Okay, what I'm tempted to do, and we'll see if we can, we'll just reverse her back just a little bit. You can see how good she reverses. Sorry about my hand getting in the way, but we're in quite a cramped situation here. Okay, so we'll have a look now and just see. Look at that. Smooth as you like. Smooth as you like. Beautiful. Okay. I was tempted to try and have a look at a more of a kind of a broadside aspect. Let's just move the tripod round a little bit. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to try to lower the tripod a little bit. Okay. So we'll lower the tripod down. You can see, oh, lower, lower, lower. That's it. Okay. So we lower the tripod. This is quite a nice little tripod. This one. It's got sort of controls, lets you raise and lower it. We'll just bring her forward a little bit. There we are. So that's more of a broadside view there. I'm just going to try and move the controller back a little bit because the wire's in view there. But we've got a good idea of what this locomotive looks like now from the broadside aspect. You'll see the lovely lining on the cylinders, the boiler, on the water tanks, and I think you can see from here, right at the front of the tanks, you can see where they're sloping at the front. That's the higher capacity water tanks. The lower capacity ones, the earlier locomotives, would have completely flat top. So the actual water tanks would look sort of oblong or square at the top. Okay, flat at the top. Now we're going to bring her along just a little bit more. Now, I can assure you that this one does not come with a painted cab, okay? But bear in mind the cab is right down inside. I mean, unless you had these vents at the top openable, I don't think you'll be able to see the cab very well anyway. Okay, so that to me, I don't mind it not having a painted cab, because like I say, it's right down inside. When I get the body off, I'm going to see how practical it may be to cram a loco crew in there. That may be a fun of its own. The coal on the back of the bunker, that looks a little bit sparkly. I don't mind that sometimes. I mean, what they used to do one time, I think, was to damp the coal down to try to stop the dust from going everywhere, and that may have been done on this particular locomotive. You can imagine it in real life. Okay. So there we are. So, I know we're having a nice little look at our controller as well. Our combi controller. Here we are, Gauge Master Combi. A wonderful controller. Now we're going to bring her up now. We're going to bring the tripod back round to where we were. So please excuse any sort of jiggliness, whatever. And we're going to raise the tripod up again. You see, it's got a little handle on the side of this tripod. You can actually turn it over. Because I think possibly when the trains are running, a bird's eye view is the nicest view of them. And all you do then is just a little screw on the side, you turn. There we are. So now we're back Now we're back to the normal view that we were on. And we shall put her back into forward gear. You can watch the carriage disappear. Now with my camera work, I mean, bear in mind, I'm very much a novice at this YouTube lark, okay? I have made quite a number of videos on YouTube. Now I started off with a phone, okay? And if any of you are actually watching this particular video today, and you're wondering what camera I'm using, I think, yeah, I'm going to talk about this because I've been watching other YouTubers with their videos and one of the videos they've made, and you very often think, well, what are they using? What camera are they using? What controller are they using? Is a track Hornby or Pico? If there's a building on the track, like the ones like you can see in the distance there, where do they come from? Were they kits and whatever? How did they make the kits up themselves? There's certain questions you think of in your mind when you see someone's modern railway. And as you can see, mine is quite basic. Now, if we go into the camera, what I've got here, I'm using a Canon M50, and I bought this because it's a camera that's known for its autofocus. I've also set it in manual settings to try and get to try and keep as much of the layout in focus all at once. So what I've done is if any of you are into viewer photography, at the moment I'm running it 1/25 of a second, I think, f8, and the ISO is bumped up to 5000 now. I'm very much on a steep learning curve with this, and I think possibly one of the things about this is the lighting that I've got. Now, I did, but my earlier videos which I shot were done with a phone. I can show you what I shot them on, and it goes to show what can be possible if you're not starting a YouTube channel of your own. I mean, it is a big step to actually do this, and you might be thinking, well, is the equipment I've got good enough? I'd say, well, as long as it can shoot video, it's probably good enough. I mean, this is what I used to begin with. This little lovely little Sony Xperia X. Now I bought this in 2017, and this is a 2016 model as far as I'm aware, but I was shooting video with this phone in 1080p. And one of the drawbacks you may find with filming with a phone, especially and certain cameras, if you decide to shoot in 4K, you might get overheated. I mean, that's a 1080p, that phone's only capable of shooting in 1080p, but even that one shooting in 1080p, I was getting some trouble with overheating. But this one, it's not given any heating issues as of yet, this M50. Previous to this, I was using a Canon M10. But what that one didn't have was what they call dual pixel autofocus. I wanted to get the quicker autofocus. If you can imagine, let's have a look at this. So you see how quickly that snaps into focus. Put it away in the back. You see how they go into focus. Look at the signal box. See, that snaps into focus quickly. Dear Paul, thank you for your order. Oh, that's a Modern Railway Emporium. That's where I bought my this locomotive from. So I can only go by my experience. I bought 3 locomotives from them now. The first locomotive I bought was a small Prairie by Lima in black, and that came fine and ran straight out of the box. I bought a Class 52 Western from them, and that came boxed, and it was absolutely fine, and it ran fine, and this one as well. So it's, I mean, so far, I mean, I could go on my experience to say that these people are worth looking at. Okay, there are other people who've done reviews on this particular locomotive, and their reviews are worth looking at, and I'll give a mention to to Sam's Trains. He did quite a comprehensive video on this, and he's got a little bit more of a, let's say, a more professional setup possibly than I've got. So he's able to do, you know, sort of more close-ups and everything else on the locomotive. But that's something worth looking at. Okay. But there we are. That's our lovely small Prairie going round and round. Now I was going to give you a brief look at another locomotive, just to give you an idea of the differences between the two, because there were a small Prairie and a large Prairie. Okay. Now these small Prairies, you're more, if you go out onto the preserve railway, you're likely to bump into one. I mean, sometimes you can look at their website first and see what fleet they got and what engines they do have in steam. And these are lovely locomotives, they really are. Lovely locomotives. Like I said, I mean, I've wanted to get one for ages. And I saw it at the price I paid. How much I paid for it, obviously, that's my decision. And sometimes you've got to just make up your mind if you're going to be buying. Do I want it or not? And yes, I did, so I bought it. And I'm really glad I did now. Now, we might not have time to do the large Prairie. We may do that in another video. Now, the main differences, obviously, between a small Prairie and a large Prairie is you can guess, can't you? Is that the large Prairie is bigger, much bigger. Okay, and meant for a different purpose, really, initially. But we'll talk about the large Prairie at another point as well, and I may have actually featured those in previous videos. Okay. So we'll let this one go around now for a little bit more. And if you like what you see, press like, subscribe and ring that bell. And I hope to, there's other contents on there now. I've put quite a few videos out now since the beginning of the lockdown. And I'm going to continue to make videos even when the lockdown's over. I mean, it looks like we might be entering into something else again, but hopefully not. I mean, I'm talking as of Friday the 28th of May 2021. Okay, so we're going to wrap things up quite shortly, okay, because this camera's got a 30-minute limit on it. Okay, now when you buy a camera, you might find that there's a shooting limit on it. Some have got 15 minutes, some have got half an hour. If you do that, I mean, I know of one YouTuber actually does his videos as parts 1 and 2. But the only disadvantage I can see of that, I mean, it's a wonderful channel he's got, but that's Barry Davis, is that sometimes people might only watch part 1 or part 2 and not see the other parts. And now, you might want to consider, if you've got a PC, is to think about doing buying some basic photo editing software which just simply sticks your particular chapters together. That's something else I found when I've been making these videos. I'm doing this one all in one chapter. In a minute, it's on 28 minutes now, and it's going to start moaning at me that it's reaching its limit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bid you farewell, like I say, and thank you very much for watching. Thank you for your interest. And if you've got any questions, by all means ask, and I'll try to answer them for you. Okay, and thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.